Of course, is to seek justice. This responsibility includes, but is not limited to, ensuring that the guilty are held accountable, that the innocent are protected from unwarranted harm, and that the rights of all participants, particularly victims of crime, are respected. It is the task of the prosecutor to prove that the suspect has, of course, committed the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecutors accomplish this by questioning the suspect, the witnesses, and experts in order to establish that the suspect is guilty. To do this, we often work in tandem with the police. It is our duty to, 1, tell the court about all the circumstances of the case and the facts of the offense. 2, tell the court about harm to any victim of the offense. And 3, provide the court with assistance on the sentencing range. The prosecutor can also provide information to support the submissions they have made or provide further details, including a victim impact statement, which in this case, of course, Vicki would have done in her scenario. B, the offender's criminal history and any injuries, photographs of injuries, or doctor's prescription or description of any injuries. All of which aid, of course, the judge in coming to a determination on an appropriate sentencing range. To be blunt, part of our job is to send people to jail for as long as the law deems appropriate, and as you are aware, sometimes that can be for a very long time. A very important aspect of my job as a prosecutor is that at times we become the voice of those who have been silenced. In this case, Haley Atkin, Dustin Hall, and Kendall Blakely. Nothing is more tragic than when someone is killed by a drunk driver. And I want to emphasize that this includes not just alcohol, but drugs, and we're seeing an ever-increasing number of prescription drug cases. And oftentimes people mix that with alcohol as well. In this instance, the weapon of choice for the drunk driver is a 3,000 or 4,000 pound car. Combine that with alcohol and or drugs, and getting behind the wheel of a car, and guess what? You got it. That car becomes a weapon of mass destruction. With that said, if someone kills or seriously injures someone while driving drunk or under the influence of drugs, I can assure you that we as prosecutors take this very seriously. You saw what happened in court. The penalties for a DUI that results in death or serious bodily injury are stiff. It ranges from a minimum of 2 years to a maximum of 20 years. And as you saw in the video, fines range from $2,000 to $5,000. In this case, Miss Haley had the book thrown at her, and rightfully so. She killed 2 of her classmates and left 1 in a wheelchair for life. 60 years in prison. It is difficult to fathom just how long that is, but I will try to shed some perspective on that. She will be in prison until the year 2076. And I believe, as Ms. Judge Hampton stated in the video, she will be 78 years old, of course, when she is released. And that's if and only if she survives the hardcore reality of the Nevada Department of Prisons. This isn't a country club prison. This is the real deal. Of course, she will have to survive 60 years housed with murderers, rapists, child molesters, and the list goes on. Keep in mind, students, that she went from one moment of gearing up for graduation and a fun-filled summer before college, and with one horrible decision later, to now wondering how she is going to survive the daily survival of prison life, and wondering where she will fit on the pecking order of the prison world. This will be Ms. Haley Horn's reality for the next 60 years. This will be while the majority of you and her friends will be planning their senior proms, graduation parties, summer trips, possibly college in the fall, and in the near future starting careers and raising families of your own. Life will go on for her friends. And if for some miracle, Ms. Horn survives the next 60 years of prison and is able to walk out of the prison doors at the age of 78, her reality will then shift to life outside the prison walls as a convicted felon. This is no picnic. Good luck getting anything other than a menial job paying minimum wage. She will not be able to vote. She won't be able to legally own a firearm, and she'll have to register with the police department every time she moves. All of this because of one horrible, life-altering decision. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to be part of this very meaningful event, and I hope you take it to heart. If I could leave you with one last thought, it would be this. Please remember that life is precious, and at times life can be very fragile. Life is also a series of choices, and so it is extremely important to always make good choices. Although we live in a society today that has shifted to the point where we almost expect second, third, and fourth chances, please realize that driving drunk and or driving while under the influence of drugs, and that's to include prescription drugs, of course, is one where there are no second chances. And I think that what you've witnessed here today is testimony to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, when the bell rings, you are to stay seated. You're staying in here.
What?
These students and their family and friends went through this simulation in hopes that this will never become a reality. After the accident scene, these students went through an emotional roller coaster where they listened to people affected by fatal traffic accidents, including parents who have lost their sons or daughters. We made the fatal accident as real as possible, and we made the rest of the program realistically simulate the many other aspects of a fatal traffic accident. We asked them to visualize their own deaths and what it would be like to lose the most important thing in their life. Then we asked them to write a goodbye letter to their family and friends. We asked for a volunteer from the group to read their goodbye letter to you today. And I'd like to introduce Madison Myron to the stand.
Dear Mom, Dad, Morgan, and Hayden, every 15 minutes someone is killed or seriously injured in an alcohol-related traffic collision. Today I died, and I never had the chance to tell you how much I appreciate everything you've done for me, whether it be emotionally, physically, or financially related. Mom and Dad, I never told you how much it really means to me to have two parents who are not addicted to drugs or alcohol and have given me such a perfect life for the past 17 years. You guys did such an amazing job raising me. You did everything for me, so I had no worries and just could be a happy kid. To my brother and sister, thank you for always being the people I could count on to put a smile on my face, no matter how exhausting the day I had. Knowing that I had two happy siblings at home each day made me that much more excited to get home after school. I never had the chance to tell any of you that even though I didn't always show it, you guys were my favorite people to hang out with. I never had to thank you. I have you to thank you for all my happiest memories. Before today, I never thought about how important it was to say goodbye to everybody with a hug, a kiss, and an I love you. When leaving the house, but now that I've missed that opportunity to properly say goodbye, I realize what an awful feeling it is, and I don't wish it upon anyone. Not only did I realize that a proper goodbye is extremely important, but also all the little things in life that I got into arguments about with you guys didn't really matter, and the only thing that mattered was that we had each other. Mom, it didn't matter when I argued with you about what clothes I should wear or decisions I should make. Dad, it didn't matter when I would argue with you about what events I could or couldn't attend. Hayden, it didn't matter when I argued with you about who got to watch what on Netflix. And Morgan, it didn't matter when I would argue with you about who was going to clean the bathroom or which people you thought I should or shouldn't hang out with. All of these things were so unimportant. All that mattered was that we had each other's backs no matter what. And I'll never get to tell you how much that meant to me. I really loved you all. Thank you for an amazing 17 years. I love you.
Thank you, Madison. Another very important aspect of the Every 15 Minutes program are the parents. Several months ago, we asked the parents to write their sons' or daughters' obituaries. We asked them if they would like to receive a notification that their son or daughter died in a fatal traffic accident. We invited them to also witness the accident scene in which their sons or daughters died. We invited them to come out to the assembly this morning to be reunited with their son or daughter. We also invited them to join other parents last night at a parent retreat. There, the parents talk about their sons and daughters and learn how fatal traffic accidents affect us. We ask the parents to write a goodbye letter to their son or daughter as well. We also ask for a volunteer from that group to read their goodbye letter to you today. And I'd like to introduce Dennis Estes.
Dear James, every 15 minutes someone is killed in a serious injury related to alcohol and traffic collisions. Today you died, and I never had the chance to see the amazing things you were about to do to this world. The world was cheated out of one of the greatest men to walk the planet. You still had so much to give, so much potential, and it's killing me that you died while the music was still in you. I will miss our games of chess, camping adventures, our talks about physics and philosophy, human nature and politics. I wish we had time to talk, but I can tell you how much I love you, how proud I am of all that you've accomplished and what you've become. We were going to hike Mount Whitney. I was going to watch you become the best father ever. And we were going to do home improvement projects together. I've been dreaming so long of a future with you in it that I can't imagine one without. But now that you're gone, and you cannot come back to me, your great potential and my happy endings were both stolen by the reckless decisions of someone trying to have a good time. I'm angry, because that one good time has stolen so many good times that I had already anticipated, hoped for, and pursued. I'll do everything in my power to stop this from happening to anyone else. I really do. You deserve so much more. Love, Dad.
Thank you. This morning we have heard from a parent who lost their son in a fatal traffic accident. We have heard from the city attorney on what happens to the impaired driver that kills or seriously injures others. You have heard from your own classmates and their parents on how their lives were affected by the cause of their loss. But again, fatal traffic accidents affect so many more of us too. We experience it every day as police officers. I'd like to introduce Captain Brian Dunaway to discuss this.
Ms. Johnson, we've done this a few times, and every time you tell your story, it breaks my heart. So thank you for doing that. I know it's tough, but it's touching. So thank you. Good morning, students, teachers, faculty, guests. My name is Brian Dunaway. I'm the captain of the Henderson Police Department. I've been a police officer for over 22 years, and if you stop and think about that, that means I've been doing my job as a first responder for longer than the students have been alive. And the reason, and although that makes me feel very old saying that, the reason I'm telling you is that I want you to know that the things I'm about to talk about are real, and I've experienced them over these years. I also look out into the crowd and I see the faces of some friends and family members of some of the children that are in this room today, and this is important to me because my son is also your age, and these things are real to us. The reason that we're here today is because we care. We care about each and every one of you, and a lot of people spent months planning this event, and for the past 2 days, people stopped everything that they were doing just to come in here and talk to you with the hope, just the hope, that you would listen and you wouldn't make these mistakes. You wouldn't drink and drive, you wouldn't drive impaired, or you wouldn't get into the car with someone who is impaired. Over the course of my career, I have seen far too many alcohol-related car crashes, and they've taken the lives of people that did not have to die. Some of the youngest never got a chance to enjoy high school, start a career, be married, or have children of their own. And the bottom line is that life is meant to be cherished and not wasted, and not stolen in a car crash caused by someone's stupid, selfish mistake. And I know that basic high school is full of some very smart kids. You know what? I take that back. You're not kids. You're young adults. And many of you face a world far more challenging than the world that your parents grew up in or that I grew up in. And I know there are people in this room with some tough lives. But regardless of those challenges or your personal circumstances, there are some mistakes that cannot be excused. I'm sure most of you have figured out by now that we take this program very seriously. And we do that for a reason. Each year, the Every 15 Minutes program touches thousands of lives. And as I just said, every one of those lives matter to us. Yesterday, many of you attended a staged accident, and it was recreated to be very realistic. But I promise you, real crashes are far more traumatic, devastating, than any make-believe scene can ever be. The wreck yesterday was just a simulation, but it still reminded me of some of the horrible crashes that I've seen in my career. And memories of those do not go away. And this is the unfortunate thing. Every person in this room with a uniform on, or everybody that's been a first responder can come up and give that same speech, because it happens that often. Well, some of those memories I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I remember the faces of the dead victims. I remember the faces of the victims that were alive when we got there, but couldn't help. I also remember the faces of the parents, the wives, the husbands, the friends, when we had to tell them that they were never going to see their loved ones again. The purpose of this program is to try to prevent you from becoming the next face added to those memories. It only takes 1 second during a night of fun for a tragedy to occur. One mistake can lead to a deadly incident that will change your life forever. And if it happens, it doesn't matter how good your grades are, how popular you are, how much money you have or don't have. There are no do-overs. When it's done, it's done. And nothing can change it back. One wrong choice to drink and drive, or ride with someone who has been drinking, or impaired, could result in a real-life version of what you saw yesterday. The effects from that choice can devastate hundreds or thousands of people. And to illustrate that point, consider this. I'm going to call out several categories. And if you fall into one of these categories, please raise your hand and keep it up. If you're a police officer, firefighter, emergency medical personnel, 911 dispatcher, coroner investigator, mortuary rep, please raise your hand. If you're one of the every 15-minute students who participated in the accident scene yesterday, or one that was removed from the classroom, please raise your hand. If you're a parent, a family member, or a friend of any of those participating students, please raise your hand. If you're a teacher or school administrator who knows any of the students, please raise your hand. And if your hand isn't raised up yet, but when you look around, you have a good friend whose hand is raised up, then raise your hand. Now look around. This is who is affected. This is who is affected by one careless, selfish, poor decision. Your raised hands are a testament to how this effects of drinking and driving impaired can devastate not just a family, not just a school, but an entire community. You can put your hands down. It is my sincere hope that this program will influence you to never drink and drive or drive impaired, or get into a car with a driver who has been drinking or who is impaired. I also hope you will try to prevent anyone you can from drinking and driving, because anyone who calls himself a friend to make this potentially fatal mistake. Today, more than ever, the world needs leadership. And a leader uses their influence and their abilities to make sure the right thing happens at the right time. And a leader never turns the other way. Instead, a leader takes a stand for themselves and for others, even if it's unpopular. So today, I challenge you to be leaders. Because there are so many tragic events in this world that we have no control over. Zero. But this one we do. So when we can't control something, we must. We must. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. It really does affect us all. Again, it's not just about you, but it's about your family, your friends, your school, and the entire community. So it is for all of us to fix. For you, the students, to start thinking about the lasting effects of the decisions you make, especially regarding adult decisions while driving. For the parents, it is to keep talking to your sons and daughters about the important things in life and how we will always be there for them. For the community, it's for us to work together to help educate and to help keep what we have so recently experienced from ever becoming a reality. I ask you to please think about the decisions you make in your life and think about the very real consequences your decisions can have on other people. I also invite you to talk to these, your classmates, about what they have learned from this program over the past 2 days. I would like to now turn the program over to Assistant Principal Snyder.
Thank you. It's been an emotional couple of days. And I think that's because I'm a wolf. I've been associated with this school for 20 years. In some way, shape, or form. Whether it be teaching and living in the community, of which I still do. And even though I'm an administrator here, I consider myself a teacher, which means I'm also a leader. And when I sat down to write this speech, a lot of things run through my mind. And I was going to come up here and read it off the cuff, and then I thought, well, I better get a little something prepared. And when you sit down to write your thoughts, you want to make sure that you say something important, but you also want to make sure that you say something that hopefully one person will walk out the door and always remember. Always. So first of all, I'd like to thank all of the law enforcement agencies who have come together to make this happen, because this is not easy. And we are very fortunate to work with the City of Henderson, police, fire, the county coroner, the film crew who did such a great job. I can't thank you guys enough, because you made my job very easy. So thank you. Thank you to the parents of these phenomenal students sitting here. Because without you, we wouldn't have them. And these are great kids. Yeah, please. And thank you to all of you sitting in the stands for being patient. Because it's hard to sit, isn't it? I know. I get it. But you've done a great job. We're almost done. My speech is short, I promise. Okay? And then I do want you to get back to work. And then finally, and last but not least, thank you to all the volunteers who made this happen as well, because you are important. This event is good for kids. This is an experience that all of you will hopefully never forget. I've witnessed this many times, and it has always had an impact on me for a lot of different reasons. I hope each and every one of you, whether you were a participant or are sitting in the stands watching this walk away knowing that drugs and alcohol can change lives very, very quickly. Innocent people can be severely injured, and as you can tell from some of the testimonies up here, even killed. I was, like all of you, young. Yes, I was. Platinum hair might not look like it, but I was young. And I was also tempted with drugs and alcohol. I was born in a very small town, 10,000 people. And my mom used to say, Melanie, people don't use directional signals in this small town because everybody knows where everybody else is going. That was true. My parents were business owners. They were prominent citizens in their community. Everybody knew their children. So I thankfully had two great parents. I was very lucky and I was very blessed. And they taught me a good work ethic. They taught me manners. They taught me respect. They taught me to think of others. And so on and so forth. You kind of get the picture. I'm standing here today because of them. And I have worked hard. But I also know that my dad taught me a lesson. And I don't remember when the conversation was had. But I do remember having this conversation with him. And it was about decision making. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, right? Is making decisions. And he said, Melanie, you're going to make 1,000,000 decisions in your life. Some of them are going to be inconsequential. Might be about what you want to eat for dinner, what you're going to watch on TV, what clothes you might pick out, what tennis shoes you might put on. Some of them are going to be a little bit more consequential. What career you choose, who you choose to date, what friends you choose. And even bigger than that, maybe who you choose to marry. And then, of course, the really big decisions. Whether you choose to drink, whether you choose to do drugs, and then whether you choose to get into a vehicle. And he said, Melanie, I can't make those decisions for you. You know they're right, you know they're wrong, you know the good decisions, you know the bad decisions. Those and every decision you make have good consequences and they have bad consequences. And he said, you have to own those. They are your decisions and your decisions only. Basic Academy students, choose wisely. Those decisions are always yours. Thank you. Let me see if I get this right today. You guys are in 6th period.